Hello and welcome to another episode of Every Possible Angle. I'm very excited today to have with me the Executive Director of LifeLink Puerto Rico, Guillermina Sanchez. Welcome to the podcast, Guillermina.
Thank you for having us. I'm very excited to joining you today.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, thank you. We met just a couple months ago at the American Transplant Congress. You have a fantastic team, and Paragonix and LifeLink Puerto Rico, we've partnered on a few transplants. And I'd love to get into exploring the unique aspects to being an organ procurement organization in Puerto Rico. But to start with, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your journey into transplant. What inspired you to get involved with transplant and be a part of this organ procurement organization?
So I have been in love with healthcare since very young, and I started working in healthcare as a radiology technologist. And from there, my career kept growing, and I ended up being in a hospital working with compliance. And I was the contact for the OPO here, LifeLink of Puerto Rico. Back then, Marian Sade was the executive director, someone very well known for the community. She served for almost 20 years. And I was the contact with the OPO of developing policies, committees, all of that. And they approached me and said, "We're looking for someone to join us, and we feel that you will be the right fit." And that's how I became in love with this mission that now is part of my life. And now it's been 14 years serving LifeLink of Puerto Rico, but many more in the healthcare industry in Puerto Rico. I also live in the mainland in Arizona and in Florida, where I work as a radiology technology. So I know a little bit of how the healthcare is in both areas and how different it is. So I think it gave me a good perspective in preparing for this job.
Fascinating, fascinating. And I think it's true. I speak to a lot of people who, once getting involved with transplant, it really sticks and it's something that becomes a passion and a mission. It's an incredible work. So thank you for everything that you do. For those who are newer to organ transplant, can you explain briefly what an organ procurement organization is?
So an OPO is an organization designated by CMS to serve a specific geographical area. And in case of LifeLink of Puerto Rico, we have been here since 1994, so it will be 30 years now. And we serve Puerto Rico and the USVI.
And obviously, as you said, it's a little bit different in Puerto Rico than it is in the mainland. And so, particularly with organ transplantation, where so much depends on rapid deployment of the organs to the recipient and being further away, can you tell us a little bit about the differences, both the challenges and opportunities that you've had at LifeLink Puerto Rico?
So Puerto Rico has two transplant centers, one abdominal transplant center for liver, kidneys, and pancreas, and one for hearts. So we don't have a lung transplant program. So many of our organs do leave Puerto Rico and go to the mainland. So there's an ocean between us and our nearest location, which is the state of Florida. And there are several centers there, but we do have to overcome a lot of logistical barriers. One, getting things here. You know, everyone is busy nowadays more than ever. So we have been able to partner with the local abdominal transplant team, and they have provided outstanding service. So most of the abdominal organs are procured by the local teams for the centers in the mainland. We have a great service at the ORC, which is very close to the airport, and that has helped us reduce the ischemic time. We're able to offer biopsy. We're able to try to accommodate OR times when feasible, and of course, knowing what the centers need and want, building those relationships with the transplant centers. We're constantly meeting with them. I visit transplant centers in the mainland, trying to make it as personable as possible, because really sometimes it depends on the trust that they build upon the team here to accept an offer. And we have done that for the last 2.5, 3 years, and it has shown to be very successful. Definitely, you know, cost of planes, it's something that it's a challenge, and the availability
Hmm.
of planes, because everyone has been so busy and so active. There are times that it's a struggle to find a plane to make sure that we can get that organ out in a timely fashion. So definitely, I know other centers, they can just drive organs,
Hmm. Hmm.
but that's not our option if it's not accepted locally or there's not a recipient locally.
That's fascinating. I think the trust is absolutely a big aspect, especially in your case where you have an accepting institution accepting an organ that they've not seen out yet. They're potentially not sending their own team out, and so while there's so much quantitative measurements of biopsies and different labs and caths, things like that, there is a lot of interpretation by the local physician, and building that relationship and that trust, that understanding of meaning when describing a potential organ is so critical to make this whole system work. And I hear that more and more in terms of these conversations, especially as the allocation policies are changing and meaning you're working with more and more partners.
True, the term DSA, or designated service area, has changed
Hmm.
with the new allocation rules. And that's why we are reaching out more and more to other transplant centers, meeting with surgeons, talking to them directly, engaging in meetings to ensure that we understand what they need and what is their interpretation of
Hmm.
what they need,
Hmm.
and align that with our service. And I have to give a lot of credit to the local transplant surgeons that provide that service and that they're available, and even consultants. If they need to talk to a cardiologist that
Hmm.
perform the echo, to the pathologist that perform the biopsy, they are available. They want to make sure this organ is used, and they have that flexibility to have contact with them. So I'm very proud of the service that the community of healthcare resources have provided. But still, there's a lot more to do and a lot more growth that we need to do on our end, and we're working very hard. We have an outstanding team, and I know we'll show some significant improvement and increases in the future.
Absolutely, and I would imagine, for one thing, when you say an ocean in between, it's quite literal. I and this is my own poor geography. I One of the earlier centers to work with Paragonix was Advent Health out of Orlando, and they had told us about two heart recoveries they had done with our system. One to Toronto, where they went up to Toronto in Canada to get it, and one to Puerto Rico, and they said Puerto Rico was further away, and I had not realized quite how far it was to Puerto Rico. It's quite a ways even to the closest state of Florida. But you also, I know we've worked with you. You place organs sometimes into New York, all up and down the East Coast. It's truly an impressive feat. I'd imagine partnerships not only in terms of the clinical side, but then the local logistics side, like you said, in terms of aircraft, moving, whether you're doing this with private aircraft or commercial aircraft, those systems, you must spend a lot of time with those relationships as well.
Definitely, we have faced many challenges, depending, especially for kidneys, the availability of commercial flights. We have been able to send kidneys as far as Hawaii. But
Wow.
yes, definitely most of the organs stay on the East Coast. Um, Knowing the time of the flights, so you can, to the best of your capacity, align the OR time so it will be closer to that
Uh-huh.
flight and not add ischemic time. Trying to place kidneys with the liver when that's a possibility. We have not a service that it's allowing us to put kidneys on a plane on boarding with a companion. And with livers, the use of The liver card has definitely created an avenue for centers, especially with marginal livers, to feel more comfortable accepting this organ. The constant monitoring of the temperature, knowing that it's going to be in a stable environment, has created a great partnership and increased the level of trust on taking this risk.
Hmm.
The closest center is 1,100 nautical miles, which is Miami. So start adding from there. We're pretty far,
Yeah.
and that adds significant hours of polyschemic time, but still, we have good organs that can save lives, and we want to make sure they never go to waste.
And absolutely, Lisa Anderson, our CEO and founder, that was part of the mission with which she started in transplant, and she saw traditionalized storage, and just one of the aspects was not only to improve outcomes, which a lot of the systems are starting to develop the clinical data to show that, but to respect this gift that is irreplaceable, and so once it's donated, making sure that it can be preserved in the optimal state, and not minimize any potential risk during that preservation period, at that out of body time before it gets to the recipient. Which, as you said, particularly when you're stacking risk factors, when you have a marginal donor and a long ischemic time, doing everything you can, we certainly have seen that increase of use of the technology in that space to facilitate greater access to those organs through better preservation. So I'd be curious, going forward. One of the things you've grown up in the last 15 years in LifeLink Puerto Rico, in terms of your own management and leadership. You've pulled a lot of experience from your past career in the other areas of healthcare, both in the mainland and in Puerto Rico. With changing landscapes, things like that, what do you see as critical to leadership in terms of making an organization that is so critical and so mission driven? We hear great things about working with your team. How do you create a culture like that? How do you sustain a culture? Because it's also very intense. It's an emotionally intense. It's a physically intense. It's often in the middle of the night job. How do you drive that culture? How do you maintain and sustain that culture?
That's a great question. I'll say first and foremost, we have a great foundation with great leaders, starting with Dennis Hendrick, Gene Davis, now our CEO, Stephanie Hernandez, Teresa Dali. We had a lot of people before us that founded LifeLink. Dr. Dana Chires in Puerto Rico, Dr. Morales, Dr. Welcher in Georgia, that really set the ground for us to build upon. Hard work, service to the community, dedication to challenge the status quo. I think that's what I see in this organization all the time. Change to be a constant, especially now. We're moving very fast. We are challenging ourselves. We are a part of an organization that has 3 OPOs, so there's a great sense of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Not the 3 OPOs are the same, so we're challenging ourselves all the time, finding new ways. Change, I will say, is the constant. And the thinking of, well, we did this, we were successful, so now what is next? And that can be very fun when you're trying to look at, new technology, new processes. Let me call another OPO. Let me visit this transplant center. Let me talk to this vendor. So the new is the now, I would say, for us on a daily basis.
Absolutely, and it makes me think. There's the classic phrase of necessity is the mother of invention, and each one of the OPOs in the LifeLink system have different necessities, different challenges. Yours obviously being logistic and distance and cold time, brings about sort of change and exploration into preservation technologies and new tools and techniques in logistics. But I would imagine that can then spread to the others, and then vice versa. They probably face challenges that are higher necessity for them, but you still have learnings from that you can bring to your organization. I'd be curious, that collaboration process, does it happen naturally? Is it more formalized that you bring the initiatives or discovery work to the system like that?
It goes both ways. There is, formal processes that we discuss among each others, but all of us work independently. And there is, I always mention to my staff, do you remember that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Call a friend. So call your friend because you're not alone. You have people, you have resources. We have immediate access to our colleagues in Florida and Georgia. And I always go, ask what Georgia is doing about this. How are they fixing this? Or we, you know, uh, meet or discuss something and they go, oh, I see your numbers are going up. What are you doing in this setting? So we collaborate and we have built this sense of team. I think this is a great team, and we partner constantly together as we move forward in our growth um, and have a great sense of respect for each of the programs. And as you said, each of us have different challenges. And I could tell you that we are very unique in Georgia has a huge area. Florida has a lot of population in a small area. Puerto Rico is, Puerto Rico meaning with all our challenges and the distance being one of them. But we try to partner and collaborate as frequently as we can and to rely on each other's experiences to understand how to move forward, maybe in a process or in a decision.
I mean, I think that's so insightful, and I love the reference to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Because it's so true. I think that relationship at all levels of an organization is so critical. The network to expand your horizons, learn, and I think that's why we have so many of these medical conferences and organ procurement conferences. As we mentioned, we met at American Transplant Congress a few weeks ago. I think that's a very important aspect of medicine for us all to constantly get better by sharing our experiences and improving the system.
Especially now that everything is moving so fast. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I think especially as the system's moving so fast. Can you tell me a little bit about that, about what you sort of anticipate as challenges and opportunities for LifeLink Puerto Rico with some of the changing landscape that's happening in terms of both policy and allocation distances and things like that?
First of all, our goal remains unchanged. Every donor, every time, every organ, every time.
Hmm.
So, having said that, we want to ensure that we have options for logistics,
Hmm.
making sure that not only we are transferring this patient to the ORC, making sure that we are optimizing this organ, that we're having a good communication with the transplant center. We need to find an avenue to get that organ out, either a private plane or finding solutions, to make sure that we have a plane available every time. In terms of improve the allocation efforts, continue meeting with the transplant center, building that trust, and ensuring that we are able to provide what they need and to be an extension of their program here when they are trusting us to recover these organs for them. The ORC, as I mentioned, making sure that we maximize that. We want to transfer as many patients as possible from all over the island and ensure that we have the capacity to do that and the resources at the ORC to ensure these donors receive uh, the best opportunity, especially if the organ is leaving the island because of the proximity to the airport. Partner with the local hospitals. Hospitals in Puerto Rico are key to ensure donation has an option every time. So we have to make sure that we preserve those relationships, that we um, partner with these physicians and the staff, and definitely serving these donor families. We have an aftercare program ensuring that we honor their loved one gift and that we support them in this process.
It's a huge responsibility. There's so many aspects to what an organ procurement organization does, and it's truly an incredible calling. And as you mentioned, there's very different challenges, and you mentioned some of the infrastructure between the ORC and the local hospitals. One question that I'm curious about, another challenge beyond just distance that Puerto Rico has, is weather. So obviously, late summer into the fall, weather could probably be quite a challenge. And tell me a little bit about operating an organ procurement organization that has such severe weather challenges compared to a lot of the U.S.
So I know it could give the impression that it's daunting. I don't know if even that's the right word. We are used to it. It's this is part of being in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
That nothing compares to Hurricane Maria in
true.
2017. No one, had not lived that experience, but I can tell you we remain operational
Mhm.
even then.
Really, straight through
We we
Maria.
didn't we didn't had no downtime during that period, and our staff responded very early, and we received support from Lifelink of Florida, Lifelink of Georgia, but our staff was out immediately, and we remain fully operational. We
That is
have a
incredible. That is
very
such
resilient
dedication.
team. I'm sorry?
That is incredible. That is such dedication of like the whole team to stay operational during Maria. That is amazing.
I can tell you that I'm extremely proud of the team that we have, the leadership team in terms of their support, and uh, we are a big family. We work, I don't talk to my husband at 2 a.m. very rarely, but I talk to my team very frequently at very weird hours.
Yep.
So this is a very close knit relationship that you establish with your staff. So we prepare, of course, for this type of disasters. It's not that we go in there and, oh, there was a hurricane. We prepared.
Yep.
But it's just one more challenge that we face because of where we're located. We build good relationship with the hospitals to ensure that the donors are preserved and that we provide the service to these families that they need. And if we have to wait for the storm to pass, so we can allocate organs and ensure that there's going to be a recovery that is safe, then that's what we'll do. But again, the support from the foundation and the resilience of the staff, for me, it's I have never lived an experience like Maria before, but I can tell you the response that we got from the staff was outstanding.
That is incredible. And to your point, Lifelink Puerto Rico has accomplished so much. Since 1994, you've facilitated over 2,500 transplants. What's next for Lifelink Puerto Rico? Anything about the future and the horizon for your team?
We'll continue growing the program, ensuring that we don't miss any opportunity for donation, ensuring that we partner with local hospitals and we maximize each opportunity, partnering with the local transplant centers and serving the Puerto Rican community as they need organs to be transplanted, and also serving those in the waiting list in the mainland. and everything that entails. I know those are very big things moving forward, but I think those are the goals of any OPO in the nation, ensuring that um, in donors continue to go up, organs transplanted continue to go up, with the hopes that no one dies waiting on the list.
Absolutely, absolutely. And coming back to sort of leadership and development, your what advice would you give to a entry OPO manager or leader who wants to grow in the OPO field and towards the organ transplant field? From your experience, is there any advice you would give to a newer leader?
I will give the advice that it was given to me 14 years ago. I was definitely younger and had a long career in healthcare, but I learned very quickly that I have to empty my glass so I could learn new stuff and new things, because this is definitely something different. And uh, I had to empty my glass to learn all the new ways and all these new things that were totally new for me. And no one can say, unless you come from another OPO, but in Puerto Rico, usually you come from either a hospital or some healthcare related work. And not necessarily you're going to have prior OPO experience. So this is something totally different. And once you feel that this is, there's a click in you, that you feel the love for this mission, there's no way to go back. And the other thing is, if you're a leader in an organization, nurture your people.
Hmm.
They are the ones doing the work in the front lines. They are the one representing you all the time. I always tell my staff, you represent me everywhere you are. You represent this mission. You represent the organization, and you're serving all of those waiting on the waiting list for an organ. So nurturing your staff, they are the most important asset of any organization. And this is a job with a lot of sacrifices. So making sure that you have a communication with them, even if it's 2 in the morning, ask them, how are you? How is your family? Um, is there anything that you need? Have you had dinner? Did you have lunch? Do you need transportation? Do you need a place to stay? Are you really tired? Those things for me take you a long way in this type of environment.
It's absolutely true. I think organizations and teams in highly mission driven spaces, the teams will be incredibly dedicated and go above and beyond. But as a leader, it's so critical to see them, see the team, and understand the sacrifices they're making and the challenges they're taking, and to some degree, sometimes manage burnout that can become self-inflicted because people care so deeply about the mission. But you don't want to get to the point where people have overextended themselves. And so that close relationship with your team, I think that's a wonderful example. Recently, we've seen in Congress the passage of a bill with the FAA allowing for organs to fly above the wing. This allows organs to fly in the cabin. This is a practice that was common before 9/11 back in 2001, but since then has not been allowed. But recently, there's going to be this new initiative to assess and implement policies around organs flying above the wing. Do you think that will impact OPOs in general, but particularly your team?
I think definitely it would improve the logistics of, especially sending kidneys, which the main um, um, opportunity for us to fly kidneys out of the island. If they are above the wing and you eliminate the cargo process, you reduce significantly the possibility of delays in the organ reaching their destiny. So we fully support this effort, and hopefully it will give the results that we expect. However, we are using NORA right now, and it's we're able to place the kidney in, paying for a seat for the organ and then a companion. So again, we have find ourselves to the need to be resourceful and finding other opportunities for us to send the organs as fast as we can using the resources that are available.
Excellent, excellent. That's fascinating work, and it's exciting forefront for organ transplantation. So, going forward, are there any events or initiatives you'd like to highlight that are particularly important to LifeLink Puerto Rico?
Right now, we're working on several events for the hospital staff. We have an event called School of Champion, and this is like a rotation event where we go to hospitals and we select key staff, and we provide training, and they become champions of donation in their hospital. These are faces very well known by the hospital staff, and they will be more likely to receive better some information, especially donation happens 24/7. So knowing that there's a familiar face, working with a nurse that this might be their first potential donor being managed, uh, uh, provides a great support to the donation culture of the hospital. And we're also going to start working in November with a program with nursing schools. This is a program that we have done every 2 years. And we select top students from the nursing program in third and fourth year. And they provide, they do a project about donation. While they do the project, we give them lectures on the different processes. And then at the end, they present their projects in a major event with all the nursing students. It creates great exposure. And also, it would avoid for these students when they graduate to hear about donation for the first time when they reach their clinical setting. And that was giving us the opportunity to engage with them early in their development.
Excellent, excellent. Those are wonderful initiatives. And if you want to learn any more about LifeLink Puerto Rico, feel free to visit their website. We'll put the links into the comments for this web podcast. Guillermina, thank you so much for everything you do and for all of your work in Puerto Rico. Truly appreciate you taking the time today for this discussion. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.